Hey, what is up, y'all? Today we are starting Unit 2 of Module C. So we're doing Lesson 1. Unit 2 is all on ecosystems, okay? So today during instructional time, what's going to happen is that you're going to learn the main features of ecosystems, the living and non-living factors within the ecosystem, and the role an organism has within an ecosystem, okay? During work time today, you're going to be watching another video, an Ed Puzzle video on what an ecosystem is. Then you're going to fill out a circle map for the picture that's provided. Okay. So today, like I said, we're doing lesson 1. It's a quick crash course like always. Today's lesson objective is that you will learn and understand what an ecosystem is and how it plays a role into the study of ecology as a whole when it comes to the different types of organisms. All right. So today, actually, now we're going to move on to HMH. You don't need to follow along. I did post the link on Google Classroom for you to use if you want to, and if you want to, just remind your school email is your username, which is your school ID at rcs.k12.il.us, and your password is capital R for rantool1. Okay, like I said, you don't have to follow along, and we're about to do lesson 1 online. Okay, so there's my login. Let's continue. Oh my god, I need to shave. I best begin no comments on it. You know who you are. Anyways, if you want to follow along, this is the one you'd be using, the Mod C Unit 2 workbook. And the whole unit is on relationships within ecosystems. Obviously, no one's done it because, yeah. Oh, also, there's no more Mod B on here if you haven't realized yet. Because you don't have to be on HMH right now. And I clicked the right one, right? Thought so. Okay, if it brings you to Unit 1, if you're following along, click that, go to Unit 2, we're on Lesson 1. We'll check the lesson opener, see if we like it or not. If not, we'll move on. So Lesson 1's all on the parts of an ecosystem, okay? First things first, a little Ed puzzle question. What is an ecosystem? Take an educated guess right here. Now we're going to move on. So right here it says living and non-living parts of a coral reef provides food and shelter for millions of organisms. Well, look at that little ecosystem. The ecosystem would be considered the coral reef. Yeah, we'll skip it. Okay. So exploration 1 is really the main thing we're going to cover. We'll do a small portion of exploration 2, but other than that, we're going to be done. Yeah. So yeah, exploration 1, analyzing parts of an ecosystem. An ecosystem is all the organisms living together in a particular place along with their non-living environment. Ecosystem contains everything that organisms need to survive. Think about an earthworm living in the yard. The earthworm interacts with other living things when it eats fallen leaves for food, or when a predator captures it. An earthworm also needs air and water, which are non-living parts of the ecosystem. So, ecosystem, it's a community of organisms, and they're abiotic or non-living parts of or non-living environment, whatever. Here we have a parent robin feeding its chick a meal of worms. So let's think, because you're gonna do this on the Ed puzzle, not with a partner. How do these baby birds? How discuss how these baby birds are interacting with their living and non-living part of the environment. So looking at this, how are the baby birds interacting with the living and non-living parts of the environment? Because we know non-living is anything that doesn't have life, obviously, and while living is everything that has life. Okay, so let's discuss on Ed puzzle. Answer the question: how are the baby birds interacting with the living and non-living parts? Okay, Ed puzzle. So we're going to explore this forest ecosystem and learn more about how these organisms interact with each other. Here we got a little sugar glider, flying squirrel up. A flying squirrel glides from tree to tree using the flaps of its skin that extends from its front legs to its hind legs. It eats a variety of food, including the seeds and nuts produced by plants. So right now we already know that it eats seeds. So we're assuming that it is a herbivore. Okay, we can assume that based off what it says. Do we know? Not really. It could also be an omnivore. And then it jumps from tree to tree. Here we have shelf fungus, so just like mushrooms. Shelf fungi absorbs nutrients and minerals from decaying plants and animals. The part the part of the fungus you can see on the tree bark is just a small part of the whole organism. Microscopic fungal projections extend deep into the log, almost the lung. Here we got a little mole. Oh, look at that. The soil of the forest floor contains nutrients and water that living things such as earthworms and plants need. It also provides shelter for burrowing animals such as moles. And here we got a little salmon, a little fish. Different organisms such as salmon depend on the stream of oxygen, nutrients, shelter, and water. Okay, so decide whether each component's living or non-living. So we already know water is not living, so we'll put this right here. What about decaying log? Do you think it's living or non-living? Little Ed puzzled. Is it living or non-living, decaying log? Okay, I'm assuming since it's decaying, it's already dead, so we're gonna put it in non-living. Insects. Well, we know insects are living because they move around, they breathe, they take oxygen, not oxygen, they take oxygen, but also water. Whatever about rocks, we already know that rocks are non-living. Let's see what else. Worms, well, like it said above, earthworms need oxygen, water, etc. to live. Trees, well, we already know that they're living because photosynthesis. Yeah, same thing with air. They're not living from above. Frogs, just like insects, need all that stuff. And let's check. Well done. Are they all correct? Awesome. Cool. So yeah, now we're going into the living and non-living parts of the environment. The part of the ecosystem that are living or that results from the activity of living things is called biotic factors. So biotic factors, the environmental factor that's associated with living. So biotic, think living, bio living. So like the living factors. For example, think about a dragonfly that lives in a meadow near a pond. Biotic factors in the dragonfly's ecosystem includes tadpoles, green algae, and insects that the dragonflies eat. Green plants are also biotic factors. Dragonflies lay their eggs on the leaves of the plants. Other biotic factors that interact with dragonflies are the animals that eat dragonflies, such as fish, salmon, and salamanders, and other insects that compete with the dragonfly for food. A decaying log that dragonflies perch on would also be considered a biotic factor because it is the remaining of the living. It is the remains of a living thing. Okay. So non-living, the opposite of non-living is abiotic. So before going on, an abiotic factor is the not living part. So going back to like when we talked about Greek root words, so the A is oh my gosh. Okay. Root word A meeting. Okay, so the Greek prefix a, the a dash, that's the a part in the abiotic, is the same thing as the and, which also means not. Okay, so it's the not living. Abiotic is not living. So abiotic factor is a non-living part of an ecosystem. Some abiotic factors include air, soil, sunlight, water, wind, and temperature. A dragonfly spends the first part of their life cycle in water. I actually didn't know that. The water must be a certain temperature for the young dragonflies to survive. The adult dragonfly also needs a certain type of temperature to be able to fly. Sorry, just double checking. To fly, both young and adult dragonflies need oxygen to breathe. We already knew that. Here's a little ecosystem. Awesome. Exploration 2 is going to be very quick and easy, hopefully. Um, let's get that part. I'm gonna read right here. Ecosystems can be described according to the level of organization. An ecosystem can be organized into the simplest component, an individual organism, to the entire ecosystem. So looking at this, it wants us to organize the levels. We'll do we'll skip that part because I don't want to revisit that because yeah, I just don't feel like it. And we're not going to do that one. Cool. So now we're just going to skip down to this one, the level of organization in ecosystems, kind of like what I kind of said in that little paragraph. An ecosystem can be organized into different levels. The smallest level is a single organism. So think of just a simple animal or plant, etc. The largest level is the entire ecosystem. All the levels in an ecosystem of all of the organisms in the area along with their surroundings. That's what it means by the entire ecosystem. Each level of organization gets more complex as the environment is considered. So here's the Florida Everglades. We got the osprey, the alligators, and the great blue herons. So great blue herons talks about the population. So population is all. So it says all the great herons in the ecosystem make up a population of herons. So that means it's a group. The group of the great blue herons. All the trees in the Everglades do not make up a population because there are trees of many different species. So a population is just a group of individuals. So if there was just one of these, that would just be the individual. So it goes individual, population. We'll see what else goes after. So I'm assuming the osprey is, since it's by itself, is the individual. So individual would be osprey. Population group, great blue herons. Then alligators would be a community. Not just the alligators. The community would be kind of everything together. So the community includes population of alligators, great blue herons, osprey, fish, trees, grass, etc., 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 that are a part of the ecosystem. Tonight for homework, we're going to do something very similar. Do they have it in here? Oh, bless, they do. Okay. We're not going to talk about this. Okay. So here's kind of what I was kind of talking about. An individual is a single organism, one, such as one alligator. Each type of organism belongs to a different species. A species includes organisms that are of the same kind and can be successfully reproduced, resulting in fertile offsprings. So a species is a group of organisms that are closely related. They're not the same thing, but they are related and can mate and produce fertile offsprings. So probably like a rat and a mouse, a rat and a hamster, guinea pig and a hamster, etc. So a population is a group of individuals. So we got individuals, one. So now we have more than one. That would be a population, a group of individuals of the same species that live in the same place at the same time. Individuals with a population often compete with each other for a resource. An example, in the alligators in the Everglades ecosystem that above, they will compete for food, space, and mates. So in a population, all the type of animals compete for the same thing: same food, same space, same mates. Okay, because they all have the. Sorry, my coffee is hitting me, and it's like 4:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, they compete for the same different things. So now then there's a community. A community is made up of different populations of different species. So looking above, we had the blue herons, the osprey, the alligators. So those would be all one community. So this is when there's different populations or kind of different individuals together. It is made up of populations of different species that live and interact in the same area. They may not have the same mates, food, etc., but they're within the same space. The species in a community depends on each other for many things, such as shelter and food. For example, animals get energy and nutrients by eating other organisms. Population in a community compete with other populations for resources. Yeah. One example is two bird populations with similar nesting habits may compete for for nesting space. Two populations with similar diets might compete for food sources. So a community, should have went through this earlier, all the populations of species that live in the same habitat and interact with each other. But then there's ecosystem, that's all the parts of the living space, basically. An ecosystem is a community of organisms and their non living environment, such as the Everglade ecosystem, like above. Energy flows through an ecosystem, starting with the sunlight that powers plants and algae growth, basically. Algal, I don't know. Energy continues to flow through an ecosystem as one organism eats another. So think of the food web, food chain type of thing. Ecosystems occur at all scales, from a tiny puddle to a vast forest. So here, we're looking at the alligator. Would you consider this an individual? Okay, here we go. So the individual is just that single alligator. Moving up, there's the population of the alligator, then the community of all the different things. Then the ecosystem is also including the non-living things. So the non-living things don't really start happening till the ecosystem hits. While yes, it plays an important part of the different resources used, it's not being considered till the ecosystem, because all these that they're looking for are the living portions of that ecosystem. Let me check one thing. Okay, cool. I think this is it. This is the last part, then I'm going to give you time to work, because this should be very similar to one of your homework things. Okay, cool. So looking at this picture above, we have the African savanna ecosystem. We know that within the ecosystem, it's talking about everything, both living and non-living. So we're going to move the everything in an area to an ecosystem, okay? Looking at it, a community, it is considered what? Well, Ed Puzzle, what is the community considered? It's including all blank things in an area. What is the blank? If you said living, you were correct. All living things in an area. So now we're talking about population versus individual. Individual means there's one, so a single. Looking at the leftover answers, obviously single giraffe would be individual. Then population would be all the other giraffes together. Okay? Let's check. Awesome, we got it right. So each small factor is a part of the next level of organization. A single giraffe is an individual. The individual is a part of the population. The population of giraffes is a part of the community of all living things in an area. The community is a part of the ecosystem that includes both the living and non-living parts. And actually, we are done with today's lesson. Okay. So yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to that in a second. So today, what you're going to be doing, you also have another Ed Puzzle video to watch on what an ecosystem is. Then you're going to do a circle map for the picture that's provided. That circle map is kind of that last thing we just did, looking at the giraffes and the African savanna ecosystem. So you have this little Ed Puzzle video of what is an ecosystem. You have the circle map, which you will be doing on Cami. So open with Cami. And then you're going to be using this picture. The picture, let's guess what this ecosystem is. What do you think the ecosystem is? There's water. Okay. Obviously hit convert, it'll convert. It's fine. Anyways, so the ecosystem, text box. This is the only one I'm going to help you with. Ocean, make it bigger, please. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Child, what? I don't even know. Anyway, the ecosystem is ocean, sorry. Got confused. The community, you're going to choose part of the community within here. So tell me different parts of the community. Don't tell me one, tell me different parts. And then a population, you're just going to focus on one, okay? All right. So you're going to be telling me what the ecosystem is. Tell me what the non-living parts are too, okay? You can do it on the side. What are the non-living parts of the ocean? There's one big one. Community, just tell me 2 or 3 different types of the community. And then just population, just tell me one. Okay. Other than that, make sure it says saved after you type some things. You may not see it. It won't let you turn in, but I'll be able to see it on my side. Other than that, make sure you do the ed puzzle. There's nothing really else. So, I mean, if that's it, and you have no questions, obviously you can't ask me right now, but I'll answer them later when you have this video. If you have any questions, you know how to reach out. Miss Smith and I are here to help. Peace.